Welcome in. You have found the fastest growing podcast for the food and beverage industry. It's Winning at Work. I'm Tony Moore, expert headhunter, semi-professional podcaster, and each and every week I'm interviewing CEOs, founders, and executives of the fastest growing food and beverage companies on planet Earth. I want to know what makes their brands and their companies different, better, special. My totally awesome brands featured here take us deep into the world of the good for you category, functional beverages, beer and wine, food tech, nutri-tech, food as medicine, sustainability, recycling innovations, and the CBD and hemp world. If you want to learn how to build a brand and scale a brand, I've got you covered. You can subscribe to this on iTunes, on Spotify, which I prefer. You can follow me on LinkedIn, and I'm on Instagram at Different, Better, Special Brands. Now, what do I do? What's my day job? Well, I help companies attract talent. So when your organization is struggling to attract talent, give me a call. I'll share with you what makes my system different, better, and special, and why we're so effective. All right, enough about all that. Let's get into today's episode. All right, welcome to Winning at Work. We're going to do something a little bit different today. We are bringing back Thaddeus for another round. We're just going to call this like the lightning round. I was just thinking this could be like TNT.
I like that, Tony. I like that. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's great. The four people that listened really said that you did a great job.
Is that the feedback that you got from the four? Are you sure it was that many?
Well, two commented negatively. But I mean, for the most part, we got four, responses on social media.
Wait, did my mom listen in? Is that what was happening?
I think your mom twice, your dad once, and my daughter. So,
yeah. All right. Well, that's good.
Listen, there's just so much going on in the world of business. I know you've gone through a strategic job change, and I wanted to kind of pick your brains into that a little bit. And there's some interesting news out there as well. So let's start with, last time you were with me, right? You were VP over food service, right? Amazon. Right. So you've gone through this strategic change. Why? Yeah.
So I was doing some consulting work for several months and really focused on plant-based space but also opening myself up to other opportunities. It's kind of like that halfway point in your career, or maybe even my life. I don't know. might be less than half. Who knows?
We don't date ourselves. You just said half.
That's right. You don't know what half is. Half of what?
Exactly.
And so I really wanted to open myself up to several opportunities, and I was looking at anything under the sun. I mean, I looked at owning my own publication here locally in La Jolla. I looked at plant-based jobs, and I was helping a friend sell Hair of the Dog vodka at one point, which was really fun. It just kind of like got my mind wrapped around what I want to do again. And then out of the blue, I got a text message from an old colleague of mine at Gardein. And it literally was like a short text message that says, "Hey, do you know anyone that wants to build a food service business from the ground up?" And I just texted back one word: me. And I just kind of got excited about it. And I think it was within 2 weeks, I was hired on as vice president of food service at the Mochi ice cream company, also known as My Mochi, the brand.
I love your website, by the way. I'm going to attempt this tongue twister, and I'm gonna mess it up.
Go for it.
Have you done it? Can you say it perfectly?
So My Mochi is all about texture. Which is like the blend of the chewy dough and the creamy ice cream. So we take two words and we put them together, but I want you to try to say it.
Well, My Mochi is a miraculous match of magnificent mochi dough with marvelously mouthwatering ice cream. But if you had to describe it with one word, it'd be These mind-blowing mouthfuls come from master mochi makers who methodically mix and meld the mushy mochi with milky, melty ice cream. The result, a majestic marriage of mesmerizing flavors that'll make you say more.
Yeah, and we use terms like disquisitiousness.
Okay, so you were thinking I was going to say something different.
I thought you were going to say something like that. I missed that.
This is like the whole. Yeah, this is like
the whole mantra. No. I didn't know where you were on the website, but no, it's.
So you take two words and you mush them together.
Yeah, just like we do with dough and ice cream. And so you can chew your ice cream. It's a great snack. But it's really
what a fun product, though. I seriously, it's just super fun.
Yeah, and I kind of looked at where I was in my career, and everybody, everything I'd been working on was so serious all the time, right? Like, I think we talked about it a little bit with the space that I was in, and just like all the thoughts around plant-based and sustainability, and I think all of those things are awesome and love them, but it does add a complexity of like this like seriousness to the business. And now, I mean, I'm selling my Mochi. It's awesome. It's fun. It's disquishousness. It's super fun flavors, handheld snacks. We do have a plant-based component. We have 3 vegan flavors that we offer, and we'll continue to strive towards sustainability and things like that. So I get to play a part of that, which I think is really neat. And I get to do what I've always wanted to do, Tony, which is build a food service business from the ground up in what I deem is the right way.
We've had this conversation before. I know you've had other conversations in companies where it's like, hey, come on in and we want you to be the VP, the director, the manager, and the door knocker, right? They wanted you to do it all. And you're like,
right.
Yes, that's going to take years, right? So this company is obviously giving you a little more funding, I think.
Yeah, I think the point is that there's a couple different ways to approach it. But the way I've seen it in the past is a lot of retail companies, and we talked about this with Matt from Rooted Food Sales. A lot of retail companies, they approach me or they approach somebody and they say, well, we're thinking about getting into food service. And for me, that's like a non-starter. Like if you're thinking about it, then that means that you don't really have the funding to do it and you don't want to support it. Whereas with this company, they really took a methodical approach of building out their retail business first, then the mass business, then the club business, making that really healthy and saying, okay, what's our next great adventure? Food service. Let's invest in it. Let's make sure we set it up for success, bring in the right people, bring in the right, support structure to really go do it the right way, recognizing that it's going to take a little bit of time, but when you invest in it, you can move it a lot faster.
Well, these are just great. I first found these when I think it was at Whole Foods. I think my daughter introduced me to these things.
Probably at somewhere like Target or something like that. I mean, we're pretty mainstream.
Yeah, no, it's totally mainstream. But I mean, the idea of this delicious dough covered with powdered sugar, powdered something?
No, it's just rice flour. It keeps the dough.
Rice flour.
It keeps the dough from sticking to everything because the dough is pretty sticky.
So this idea of, building it the right way, I think it's also you kind of wanted to make a move away from something, as you said, that was just so serious. I think that's what's happened in this marketplace. It's gotten so serious and everyone is jumping into it. I heard a lot of feedback from Expo West. Companies were showcasing products that literally were maybe 10%, 20% plant-based. And they were saying, hey, check out these plant-based foods. And it was like, wait, what are you doing?
That's ridiculous.
Total greenwash or plant washing.
Yeah, right. Greenwashing. I think that I wasn't at Expo West. I heard a lot about it. It was like every single item at Expo West was plant-based. I laugh because I go to like the grocery store and I see on the shelves and it shows like sparkling water and it says plant-based, gluten-free. Well, no kidding. Right. And so I don't know. I think we've gone a bit too far.
Well, so you're building your team out the right way, or you're building business the right way. So for those who are just in retail, people who are listening and now they're like, okay, we know we should be in food service. What do you have a couple, 2, 3, 4 ideas, building block ideas that a retail company should use to really make a strong run at food service?
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, you need to have your product ready. I know that sounds...
What does that mean?
It sounds obvious, but a lot of people try to take their retail product and shove it into food service in the same package, the same format. And I'm talking back of the house or in more of a retail environment as well. What you use in retail doesn't always work in food service. You've got to kind of tailor it towards the food service business. So make sure your product's right. And you've got to understand the whole landscape. So you need somebody, whether it be somebody that you hire full-time or at least a consultant initially, to come in and really explain to you how the food service business works. It's totally different. I think, again, we touched on it a little bit in our Rooted Food Sales conversation with Matt, but just get your mind around what it's going to take and then look at, okay, what are the segments we want to go after, and really build out a team that can go attack it And when you look at the different segments, you've got to put a strategy together that's different for each one. So if you want to look at college and university, what are the trade journals that I want to promote in? What does a sample kit look like? What does what are some of the trade shows we want to do? How are we going to approach this business holistically, and what's that going to cost? And recognize that you're going to have to deficit spend a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's what they've got to be ready for. That's what you got to be ready for.
That's the biggest thing is you've got to be healthy enough in your business financially to invest. And you're going to have to hire people, and you're going to have to pay them well, because they're going to have to go out and pioneer the business for you. It's going to take a little bit. It's going to be a lot of work. But if you invest in the promotion of the product the right way, in the right segments, you can make a big impact quickly. So getting the right product, getting the right segment strategy, the right people, and then really honing in on the big operators that are going to drive your distribution. That's it. It's not rocket science. It's food. It's pretty simple. But I think people look at the food service business and it's really big and really complex, but it's not difficult once you kind of know what you're doing.
Well, like you said, you have to kind of pick your partners, your operators. Otherwise, you're going to be going after each and every individual restaurant chain. That's totally inefficient. There's just way too many of those to go after. Why do you think it's just more lucrative or better margins versus retail grocery? Is it just because it's a product that's used back of house, has to be handled and prepared? It lends itself to a greater margin?
It just depends. I think that when you get into the retail environment, there's a lot more promotional dollars behind it. But I will say that a lot of people get into food service thinking that it's going to be a cash cow. But once you become mature, you start to whittle away at your margin, because you're starting to pay your brokers, you're starting to pay marketing dollars to the distributors, you're starting to do more promotionals, ad dollars, things like that. So I think you need to be aware of it. But again, you need to bring in somebody that understands all these things and is savvy about them to really take a financial look at the business. And I think a big thing that happens is people will hire one person in the West region and they want them to pay for themselves in the first 3 months. Like that could happen, but that's not.
Maybe if you have a Rolodex and you walk in and just.
Well, and I think that a lot of people, there's a lot of salespeople. We're salespeople. Like a lot of people go out there and they say, well, I know so-and-so and I know this person. There's a difference between knowing them and getting them to buy your product and respect you, right? And so having a quote unquote Rolodex, you just dated yourself, by the way, versus
touche.
I mean, maybe you could even use an Excel file, a contact list.
You know what? This is over. This is done. I thought we were going to have a friendly conversation, and this is it. You've turned against me. Rolodex, come on. That's a universal phrase.
Yeah,
I thank you. Thank you for letting me bail out of that one.
I'll give you that. But I think it's still difficult to just come in and make a big impact just by knowing people. You still have to have all the support ready, the product ready, whether it's going to be front of the house like a retail item or back of the house. You're going to need recipes. You need all the materials ready to go to equip your team. And if you don't hire the right people and you don't hire senior enough people initially to basically help you build all this out, that's going to be a challenge. And then expecting the senior person to do all that while they're still out selling is kind of foolhardy as well.
That's what I was saying earlier about you having to, work the entire org chart. I want to shift a little bit. There's a lot going on, obviously, with talk about food shortages, inflation. I mean, inflation rates are going through the roof, and all you food manufacturers are just dealing with this all the time, right? How do you, and you're obviously then having to budget. And consumers now, they go into the store. We always had to pay a little bit more for natural and for good for you. And now everything's just getting more and more expensive. I'm just kind of curious, what conversations are you hearing companies have about holding the price steady as long as you can? I mean, eventually the dominoes are going to fall. I mean, the interest, it's insane.
Well, I think there's a couple of schools of thought, and it used to be, we used to talk about it in product development, as you whittle away product features to keep the price at a good point, you slice away that salami slowly, and then eventually you're like, wait a minute, I've only got half a salami left. I think when you look at the pricing scenario, it might go the other direction, what I mean is there's people that try to hold, and then all of a sudden, bam, they hit you with this massive price increase. That can be a little bit shocking, I think, to the consumer. for a lot of people. But
so one school of thought could just be kind of a gradual,
kind of incremental. Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than hold, and then double.
I mean, look, I haven't lived through this massive inflationary time during my career, really. So
this is new for a lot of us, honestly. I mean, depending on the numbers you read, it's anywhere from 9% to 20%. I mean, it's insane. I mean, not to get into economic policy and everything, but I think if you don't increase prices over the course of 15 to 20 years, it's going to happen eventually, and you're going to get a big shock. Which I think people are getting right now. You can't just sit there and really expect things to be the way they are. But I will say that now I see a lot of things about companies shrinking package size. This has been going on forever.
Yeah.
Like we're still those people that eat cereal.
Okay.
And that's, the front of the box looks absolutely the same. Then you pick it up and it's like it's an inch, it's 2 inches, right? You start squeezing it, it's like 3 inches down there.
No, I mean the pressure's real on the manufacturers.
No,
the pressure's real on the manufacturer to try to deliver, and unfortunately, the consumers don't care. Right? I think that we've all gotten a little bit spoiled, but it's real. It's happening everywhere. Fortunately, I think the retailers really understand it. On the food service side, the distributors understand it. The contract management companies understand it. We've all kind of wrapped our arms around each other in the food industry and said, we've kind of all got to do this together because it's happening. It's real.
And that's what I was saying. I mean, that's like you can only hold for so long, but it's going to have to expand. I think this is also where if your company has the ability to do this, and depending on the kind of products you're buying, do some commodity buying, and you can lock in contracts. And we see that in the airlines industry, right? They buy contracts, they kind of lock in rates, so they know they've got a rate. And I'm not an expert in the ag space, so I don't know how much you can do that with flour and wheat. You probably can. You can probably buy commodities. That might be one way that they can combat this, but eventually those contracts, you're gonna outrun the length of those contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's other things you have to consider as well, which has become long lead times from overseas buying. We've got pressure on wheat right now from what's going on over in Ukraine and Russia. So I think, you have to almost reevaluate your business and look at it and say, where am I sourcing this stuff from? And is it better to pay a little bit more for something that I can get or not be able to pay for something I can't get at all?
Yeah. So interesting. Now I could really date myself if I told you I actually subscribe to a newspaper. Do you know what a newspaper is?
I actually like newspapers.
So it's a digital newspaper. Thank you. There is a one weekly publication if it makes it out on time. But anyway, I was reading something this morning, and it says the headline was global food shortage, but local farms stand despite global challenges. So growth of victory gardens providing for people fed up with global food shortages and drought. And I mean, for those of us, we go to, we're very aware of farmers markets. We've not forgotten about them, but I think a lot of people have. I mean, that is literally one way to get around this is to go local. And I know it's hard you can't supply everything local, but look, you've got all these farms and growers. Just go try to get local as much as you can.
Yeah, which I think what a lot of people don't understand. Well, let me talk about two things. One, geographically, it could be a problem. Like I'm fortunate. I live in Southern California. I have a farmer's market that I can go to every day of the week, literally.
Every day of the week. Well, ours is only on Saturdays.
Well, I can get, there's one in each beach community. Like, every day
are we going to get into your beach? I don't want to.
I was trying to avoid it, but you acted so surprised. But what I will say this, what I find hilarious. What I find hilarious is when you see people that don't usually go to the farmer's market and they look at the apples. This is a side note that I think you'll find funny. They actually have a sign up because the apples look dirty. And
they're like,
the sign says, these are real apples. This is what they look like. They don't come from Argentina and have been waxed and on a boat for 3 months.
Oh my God. People have no idea. Literally, go talk to the farmers. Go talk to the people who are selling their products. And you're going to find out what you're eating in the grocery store is crap.
Well, or the fact that they don't have certain vegetables available certain times of year. Like that blows people's minds. They're like, what do you mean Sprouts has it? I'm like, well, okay. They have a bigger supply chain than Frank's Family Farm, you know? But I think this is putting more and more awareness on local, smaller, and I like that. I think that's a good thing. I think it's and it's hopefully people are seeing the benefits of it. It brings people together from a community standpoint. I think that there's a lot of good that can be derived from some of the bad that's happened over the past couple of years.
There's so much negative press that keeps coming out against plant-based foods and plant-based diets. I think a lot of the stuff that I read, honestly, I think they're like hit pieces against these guys.
Paid for by the Egg Business Council.
Literally paid for by the beef industry.
That's right.
I mean, I literally feel like
you got to read the fine print.
Yeah, you really do. I probably need to go down and scroll a little further through this. Yeah, I mean, they just keep hammering this industry. You know what? Here's how I look at that news. I kind of feel like when you're taking flack, you're over the target.
Yeah, 100%. Like when you're really making waves, people are talking about it and they're coming after you when you're at the top. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of negative press that comes out about earnings reports for public companies.
Oh, yes.
And what's hilarious about that is most people don't realize that all they're doing is they're beating up the stock because the people weren't good at planning. That's all it is, right? You have to put in a forecast annually, and they're going to look at it and say, did you hit your forecast or not? If you didn't hit it, you're going to take a hit. But that has nothing to do with the product itself and the industry itself. It only has to do with the people that are running that company.
It has to do with like 4 people in the financial planning and analysis group that report.
Yeah, well, and even the salespeople that are saying this is what we think our goal is, and well, either you make it or you don't. But
that's true. They are having to get that information from you guys.
Yeah, but still, it's like, but it has nothing to do with the state of the plant-based industry when somebody doesn't, meet the needs of the street, so to speak. The plant-based industry is super healthy, no pun intended, financially and for yourself. But
Jim Ellis would agree with you too.
He would 100%.
He absolutely would. And we had a great episode with him. So you have to go back and listen to that one if you didn't. Fermented mushrooms. Oh, that reminds me, I'm going to have to link a really interesting article. So Manitree had a health and wellness symposium, and they brought all the companies in that they're investing in other potential companies, and they put together like a list of like the top 10 things that are, kind of trends that we need to be looking for. And one of them I want to highlight, and I don't know if you've looked into it at all, but it's this sustainable packaging.
Oh, yes.
To me, this is the one area that we absolutely have to do something better in. I can't tell you how many times you buy something and you just have extra plastic thrown in your bag. I mean, literally unnecessary.
Look, Sambazon's a great example of this. They came out with their ready-to-eat bowls, and they actually delayed the launch so that they could come out with a 100% plant fiber bowl for their ready-to-eat bowls. And they've launched it now nationally. It's in Walmart. Everything does very well, but they really were conscientious of making a package that was keeping up with the product that they're producing, which I think is fantastic.
It probably costs a little bit more. I don't know. I shouldn't just make that claim, but more time in R&D. I mean, obviously, it's got to be more expensive than just buying something from the plastic industry.
That kind of ties into what I was saying about launching Foodservice, which is if you're going to do things, do it right and do it with intent. Right? This is on the sustainability side. That's on building a business side, but I think that ties together rather nicely. If you're going to have to spend a little bit more to do the right thing, and you'll probably reap the benefit down the line.
Yeah, it's something that I've really wanted to see. I had Matt Prindeville on some time ago, and he's the chief solutioneer at Upstream. I don't know do you know this?
No, I don't. I love the term.
That was an awesome name. It's
like, I got to come up with a better name than vice president of food service. Vice president of disquiciousness, maybe. I like that.
Yeah, well, no, you should. Like owners and founders will come up with like different titles, like, chief Chipotle officer. Yeah, you definitely need something a little hipper.
Yeah.
You definitely need something hipper. But he was talking about the city of tomorrow and this whole new environment of service reuse companies. So you're going to go in to a QSR, you're going to pick up some food, and instead of throwing it away when you're out on the street, there's going to be separate bins, and you're going to recycle back into a circular economy. And that's the problem, is that circular side. They don't quite have that down yet. They don't have the dishwashing, the cleaning, all that in place yet, but it's coming.
I think I think it is. I think they do have it down. They just have to figure out ways to make money at it. There's still that underlying thing that you can do the right thing, but you've got to be able to profit a little bit.
Well, okay. So it's kind of like the anchor store. Like if you have, right, you got to have the monster client that makes it affordable. And then you can go to all the smaller QSRs and restaurants and kind of have them.
Yeah. I love that idea. I mean, you see that already a little bit on college campuses. Colleges always lead the way.
Yeah.
We talk about colleges all the time.
Yeah,
but colleges lead the way. There's colleges that allow that, or they did anyway. They allowed the students to have their own like reusable container they could bring in, fill up with food, take back. The one thing I will say, from a kind of a funny standpoint, is when you talk about this, where do you put your food waste and everything else? It takes like education, man. Every time I go into Whole Foods and eat something and I see the 3 bins, I don't know where everything goes. And
so it's not just me.
I feel like somebody's watching me. So I kind of like,
that's for the trash.
Like I quickly scrape it off into one thing and throw it in another one and run out the door, It's like, but what I mean is you need to start to educate people on how all this stuff works so that they do it the right way as well. I think
they just need to make them into shape. So you have to sit there and work out a geometry problem, and just kind of.
I wonder if you were okay with the square peg in the round hole idea.
Absolutely not. I just pulled the thing apart and forced the piece in. I think that's
brute force. That's what I like. Just get it done.
I am definitely confused. I think that's why I stopped eating at Whole Foods. It was the exit that was so confusing.
It's frightening. You want to do it the right way, but there's really nobody there to show you how to do it.
It's a new cottage industry.
Are they doing that? And so I don't have any kids, but do they do that in like K through 12?
What exactly?
Like the whole composting and like separating containers and disposable and all that kind of. Do they teach any of that stuff?
I don't know if they teach it, but that's what was talked about on the podcast. Is that's where this thinking is happening, like you said, at the colleges. It does come down. Look, I mean, when you were in grade school, you still returned your tray, you recycled your tray. It all started. So yeah, they've got that.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So maybe that's the next frontier for you. New job, and then maybe we'll get into
Nope.
We're
Good thing this isn't a video podcast.
Just he just gave me the dirtiest look. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet just shot lasers at me when I
Keep
pointed.
My personal life out of it, Tony. When
I pointed to my wedding ring, he looked at me like, "What are you doing, dude? I have a new job. I'm enjoying life in California."
Hey, I got a dog. Okay, he's awesome.
You've got a really, really cool dog. Pirate? Is that the Pirate? We have 2 dogs, right?
No, I have 1. Pirate. Yeah, Pirate. Pirate is great. Yes. So I'm good with that right now.
You're good. You get good with the dog. Well, look, I think as you get into this business a little bit more, I do want to follow back up to see how the strategy is working, because you did run through a number of ideas for us. You have to choose where you're going to spend. I know you've made some strategic hires. You've got the company behind you. It would be kind of interesting to find out just, how is it? Yeah. How's it being executed?
Stay tuned for the update. Either it worked and I still have a job, or
he's begging me to be a co-host. Yes. Hey,
I need a raise. I need to be paid for this.
Yeah, me too. Me too. How about next time? Let's spread the word. Let's spread the word. If you need a food and beverage headhunter, it's right here. Your answer
is right here. It's Tony, and join us.
That's right. Thank you very much. That's a great plug. All right, Thaddeus. I think the TNT show is wrapping up.
I like it. It was dynamite. Hey, sometimes the obvious ones are the best ones.
Sometimes you just kind of just let it sit there on its own.
Just let it marinate.
Just let it marinate. Thaddeus, I tell you, I hope our 4 listeners really enjoyed this one.
I enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
Seriously, this podcast really is growing. We've got a lot of new growth and viewership, and We're beginning to build. What I really want to build is a community where we can all kind of come together and ask questions and pose comments that we want to see kind of answered on the podcast, because typically it's just executives, CEOs, founders. We're here trying to solve the problems and uncover it. So community is being built. The question is where, because if I say Facebook, not everybody wants to go to Facebook, but that's an easy open forum to get to have everyone join in and connect. We're not going to connect on Instagram.
Maybe we can ask people who are listening to the podcast to make some suggestions, because I am not a social media guy. I can't answer that.
Yeah, it'd have to be LinkedIn. It'd have to be on LinkedIn, a LinkedIn page.
Which makes sense. This is a professional podcast.
That's it. That's the only way, because...
Most of the time.
More marination. This is too bad this wasn't a video. This next time we're going to do this over YouTube, I think.
No, that'll be something.
That's when our 4 viewers leave us.
That's right.
All right, TNT, we're signing out. Thank you for tuning in this week. Thaddeus, good luck at my Mochi. Is it my Mochi? Am I saying it right?
Yeah. Yep, my Mochi. You got it.
By the way, ever since you started there, I told my family, and our freezer is full of these things now.
Oh, listen, I honestly had no idea how popular this product was.
Super popular.
With kids. And once my friends all found out that have kids, I became the coolest guy.
Oh,
since I sell it, it's fantastic.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And when those blueberry ones come out, I want some freaking samples.
We'll work on the blueberries for you. Thanks.
All right, we're out of here. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, everyone.